Francisco. That sounds good, right? A lot of humming. Cool. So my name is Eve Porcello. You can find me at Eve Porcello on all of the things. I work at Moon Highway, where we teach JavaScript and make dumb t-shirts. We also work on GraphQL Workshop, a 2-day full-stack GraphQL workshop, and we are Apollo's official training partners. My husband, Alex Banks, and I wrote this book, Learning React, last summer. People always ask me if you get to pick your animal for O'Reilly books. No, you don't. I wouldn't have picked a family of pigs, ever. But our latest book, which came out this week, I have not held a copy of this yet in my hands, but I'm assured it exists. We have a bird on it, so it's a little better. So I was thinking about how to prepare for this talk, what I should do, and I was thinking about what are some good ideas for like a 10-minute lightning talk. So I decided that I would do a demo over conference Wi-Fi. I would live code some stuff, and I would host it all on a free Heroku dyno. So that's probably the best way to approach it. I am here, though, to talk to you about GraphQL today. If you haven't worked with it before, Lauren helped me out timing-wise by giving a great intro to what GraphQL is. But in short, GraphQL is a query language for your API, which means that you can query or ask for the data that you need and get that response in the same shape. React developers, when you're getting started with GraphQL, a great place to get started is with Apollo Client, because they provide some wonderful tools from React Apollo. They're giving us these different components that we can use to grab some data from a GraphQL API and load it into our user interface. So, having said all that, I'd like to get started here. So if you would, help me out, grab your phone, and I'd love for you to connect to graphql.fun. I own graphql.fun, the domain, not to brag, but head over there. And as people are connecting to GraphQL Fun, I should just say a little caveat that your face is going to be on this screen. So if you don't want it to be on this screen, don't connect. Also, I'm not going to steal your data. I didn't even go to the trouble of setting up a database for this, so I'm not going to steal your data. So people are starting to connect, people I recognize. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, John, and others. And as folks are connecting, I'm going to start to query this live data using the GraphQL Playground. So GraphQL Playground is a wonderful tool for exploring a GraphQL API. Up here in the center of the screen, you'll see our one endpoint. And there's only one endpoint in GraphQL, which is pretty awesome, especially if you've tried to wrangle a bunch of REST APIs at any point in your life. So let's see how many folks we have connected. I'm going to send a query over here on the left for the number of players who are currently connected. So it looks like we have 26 people connected. Notice that my query on the left-hand side is returning the data in the same shape. I'm asking for player count. It's returning that data to me. Okay, so the next thing I want to do here is let's query all players. And even though players might have thousands of fields on that type, I can query just the data that I want. So I'll say login, name, and avatar here. And then again, I'm going to see that data, 45, nice work. More folks are connecting to that at this moment. All right. So we're making that request, and we're getting that response with that query. So I'm actually going to grab this query here on the left-hand side of my screen, and I'm going to go over to my terminal. Now, in the terminal, I'm going to get started by installing all of the packages that I need to get started with Apollo on the client side. So I'm going to run yarn add Apollo boost, React Apollo, and GraphQL. So I'm not really going to run that, but that's all you need, those three things. If you take anything away from today, you would just install those. And then I'm going to run yarn start. Now, as soon as I run yarn start and say that it's OK to run it on that port, this is going to open up just a simple create React app here on the right side. So how do we get that data? How do we get all these people that are appearing on the screen to be part of our user interface? Well, the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to pass that client data to our app. So let's do this. Let's first import Apollo provider from React Apollo. I then am going to take the Apollo provider and I'm going to wrap it around the app. And finally here, I'm going to create my instance of the client. So we'll import Apollo client from Apollo Boost, and then we'll create a new instance of that client. And here's where it gets cool. All we need to do to set up the client is remember that endpoint I referenced before? We just need to grab it. So I'm going to grab this from that playground there. A lot of spoon clanging around. And we're going to pass this into the provider. All right. So that's all we need to do. It's set up. And as you can tell over here, that nothing has happened yet, and that's not that exciting. So let's make something happen. So in the interest of time, since this is a lightning talk, I'm going to pull the ripcord here and ask you to do this. So if everybody wants to turn around for a second, I'm going to just live code some stuff real quick. So just keep your eyes back there. Just keep them back there. I'm not joking. And I'm going to just live code this app, right? So I've live coded it at a past talk. You can see that I can handle it. But this is basically what we're putting together. We have our query, our all players query. And we're using the query component, the all players query, to actually send that query. So if I give this a save, we should see all the folks who are part of our audience here, all of our players. And then if I hit create teams, we should be able to group these folks into the teams based on this mutation. So notice here, I have a create teams mutation. Mutations are how we change data with GraphQL. And so as soon as I use this mutation component, which starts here on line 33, every time I click the create teams button, all of you who are connected will be grouped into your teams. I think that's pretty cool. And I wish I could have live coded it, but I want to respect everyone's time. I appreciate you having me here today, Reactathon, and I'm happy to talk about GraphQL with everybody after this. So have a great time, and thanks for having me.
All right, thank you, Eve.